Hello everyone. I am a VP of Security and Privacy and AI Governance. My name is Jason. Thank you for coming to this event. So today's theme is about AI implementation, and I'd like to talk about how we measure against any risks that AI poses. Before getting started, I'd like to quickly introduce myself. I joined Mercari back in... I first came to Japan back in 2015. My careers have been quite unique. I was working in Kita-Kyushu at the City Hall. I joined Mercari back in 2018. I first started working as a translator and interpreter, and then I happened to become a dedicated interpreter for the security team. And then back in 2019, I transferred to the security team. And for the past 7 years, I have been involved in a lot of projects for security, privacy, and AI security and AI governance, and now I am the VP of AI security and AI governance. So yeah, if you'd like to know more about me, please come talk to me at the after party tonight. So for today's session, I want to talk about our initiatives in the AI security and governance. So first, I'll talk about the history of this team in the first 10 minutes. And for the last 20 minutes, I am going to invite members on the ground and have a panel discussion to dive deep into some of the questions. I think we've been talking about AI task force a lot, but before AI task force was established, we established the AI security team because we knew that the wave and momentum of AI would come, as well as a lot of risks that come with AI. So for that reason, we established the AI security team to come up with guardrails and security measures, which was happened back in April of 2025. And 6 months after that, we started AI task force initiative, and we strengthened governance beyond technical verification fields such as legal, privacy, and ethics. So for that reason, we established AI governance team to be able to have countermeasures against various risks that AI poses. Next, I would like to explain what are the solutions that those teams are coming up with. So next week there is going to be a F1 race. I wanted to use this F1 model to talk about 5 components we have here at Mercari. So those 5 components are the parts of a car as well as a F1 race. In order to be able to utilize AI in a safe and a secure and faster manner, at Mercari, we want to make sure that we can get the benefits out of AI while making sure that there is always safety and security. And if there are any issues that happen, we will make sure that we can minimize the impact of that. So we've got steering, guardrails, seat belts, and the one that I think is the most important, which is the engine. And last component is a brakes that will be more and more important moving forward. I'll first talk about steering, which is about guidelines and rules. So I think a lot of companies have been working on this, but here at Mercari, AI governance team is in charge of this area. So as you can see on the slide, we've got 6 components that are quite important to introduce AI. The most important thing is the principles and the policy for an organization and publish them externally. At the beginning of this year, Mercari has published our stance on how we use AI within the organization with accountability that is now available on our website. So that serves as the principles, policy, and rules will be made based on those principles. And based on those policies and principles, we need to set up necessary guidelines and rules by talking to various stakeholders. And what's important is AUP, acceptable use policy, to clearly define what is accepted and what is not with the use of AI in order for us to utilize AI in a safer manner. So these two are the steering, most important parts of the steering. And we also have to have a system to be able to audit and monitor all the uses of AI so that we can have a safer environment for a continuous period of time. But just having systems is not enough. Just having policy is not enough, because what's important is everyone working in that organization fully understands that. To realize this, we need to have a thorough communication with our employees on a frequent basis so that everyone in the organization understands what they're supposed to do. We have published how we communicate that in our website as well. Mercari's AI governance and security. We also report our activities at the board of directors meeting as well as the executive meetings. So next is about guardrails. Without guardrails, we wouldn't be able to have an environment where people follow principles and rules and with dedicated systems. So as you can see on the slide, what are the baselines that we need to standardize to understand what AI tools can be used? For example, having a single sign-on. If there is a single sign-on, this use case will be accepted. And without audit logs, you wouldn't be able to take certain action. So that is about standardizing baselines. And if there are any shadow ITs, we need to be able to identify them and address them in a correct manner. And we also have to have secure by default. Here at Mercari, what we are doing is restrict data exfiltration using MDM profiles and technical controls to ensure the safe operation of AI. So this will be covered by Akamatsu, who will be in charge of the AI security later during the panel discussion. There are two remaining things we have to think about, which is that I talked about inventory as well as visualizing all the AI use cases. So we need to have a centralized gateways to manage policies. And to do that, we have to create certain gateways. Mercari has been using several gateways in order to be able to manage secrets and connect them to our internal tools so that we can always enforce security policies. And last one is about innovation and how we can make an isolated sandbox environment to safely test and operate AI systems and isolate them from companies' confidential information and data. Moving on to the third component, which is seatbelts. So this is about harnesses for AI agents. The definition of harnesses varies by individual, but this is about infrastructure that AI is on top of. So what is something we can do to make an environment where AI is being used secure and safer, and how we can put security controls into that. Here at Mercari, we have a project called PJ Double. The purpose of the project is to double the productivity of engineers and try to automate as much processes as we can for product development cycle. And this is where we put focus on harness. And we'll make sure that the security controls are also implemented into AI harnesses, because this might not be implemented into all the tools, but we might be able to have security-related skills into AI tools such as Claude, so that we can always monitor what's being done on AI tools and be able to identify vulnerabilities and address them. So fourth component, which I think is the most important component, which is the engine. You might be surprised to hear that, but engine, you might think that engine might not be the responsibility of the security team. And I've been talking to a lot of people in organizations. A lot of them are struggling how to manage first-line team, second-line team, third-line team, and how they can balance speedy product development and the safety and the security. And so this is also related to car, but we need to make sure that everyone is in the same car, be headed to the same goal on the same track. So when we think about that, the roles the second-line team can play is significant. By a security team being part of the task force, we can make that more successful and make things move forward more faster and efficiently. So security team and privacy team are a part of the task force, and we are always involved in the discussion. So if there is just one message that I want to say, that would be that AI and security governance should be part of the engine rather than something that's outside of the process task force, so that we can all be part of the same mission. And AI governance security, we have been taking various initiatives since the beginning of this year. And if you are in one organization, one task force, your scope will be limited. So what's important is to collaborate with external parties, organizations, to expand our perspective. You come from AI governance team, we will touch upon this later. But last month, we had an event called AI Jamboree, which was an external event where we got together with about 10 organizations or 20 organizations outside of the company, so that we were able to talk about how to put right AI governance into an organization, and how we can come up with right security measures.
So we want to think of things from both sides, and we want to share our insights. So lastly, I want to talk about breaks. And this is something that's very important. And of course, there are some risks that we cannot afford to take. And I believe as a risk management organization, that's something that we need to take note of. And I think back in 2025, I think we mainly focus on utilizing AI. So for example, there are a lot of things that were covered by looking at different tools. But as we move on, we are moving into the phase where we are taking a more agentic approach. So not just human using AI, but AI agents using AI, and communicating between AI agents is something that we are proceeding with. And maybe in the past we were using workflow, but now AI agent is the one controlling the workflow. So we need to really think about what are the breaks that we need in place, and we shouldn't do that after the fact, but we also need to implement as a mechanism so that if something happens, we are ready to manage things. And something that we place emphasis on is agent identity management. So similar to, as agent acts similar to employees, as an employee, so it's very important to give an identity to the agent. For example, if the agent is attacked for some reason, then we need to have a mechanism in place where we are able to cut the session, for example, or disable the account. So that's something that we have been considering to do starting from this year. And also, we've recently shared the rule of two. This is something that's published by Meta. So let's say AI agent is communicating with each other. We need to think about what are the risks, what are the permission that each agent have. Can they communicate out externally? Can they access external contents, confidential contents? So we need to think about how to control what each agent can do. So starting from this year, we have been taking this principle really seriously. And human in the loop is something that we also started the conversation this year. I think you might have heard human on the loop as well. But basically, this concept is where we also need to figure out where to implement this concept. For example, do we really just accept, approve everything? We need to think about what are the things that we approve, what are the things we shouldn't approve, and how are we going to review that. And last 2 points here. It's quite a niche area. To be honest, there are not many use cases in Mercari that we have to apply these to yet. But for example, if we are going to have a workflow run by AI, we need to get ready queue switches. It's quite similar to the point about identity management. For example, if AI agent is doing something that's out of their behavior, then we need to have a mechanism where we are able to shut down things if something happens. And also about AI-specific incident response, we have started the conversation about this year as well. For example, what if our customer is impacted as a result of AI hallucination? Maybe a certain workflow have stopped working. So we need to make sure that we have a proper incident response available when something happens. And that's all that I wanted to cover for the first part. So just wanted to highlight what I want you to take away from today's session, and later on we will move on to the discussion part. So number one here, establish principles. Similar to what I just said, we need to have an AUP in order to handle things in a speedy manner. And after deciding on that, not just merely having guidelines, but we also need a guardrails. Being able to enforce certain things in a technical way. Later on, we will touch on this topic at the panel discussion. And also, we need gateway enforcement. So as we have endless tools, we need to think about how to choose the tools. And also, once we choose the tools, how are we going to manage them? How are we going to enforce governance? That's gateway enforcement. And then the last two here. So in order to enable innovative use case, how are we going to experiment on things, and how are we going to establish environment to enable that? And the very most important part is governance as an engine. So yes, we need to do this, but we shouldn't do this in an isolated manner. We need to work with AI task force and have a constructive discussion to take risk governance and approach things in this manner. And that's all that I wanted to cover, and I would like to move on to the panel discussion. Presenters or panelists, can you come up to the stage, please? Yep, are you ready? Okay. So before we start the panel discussion, let me have everyone here to do a brief self-introduction, maybe from the left. So my name is Akamatsu Hiroki, AI security team. So when this team was established, I joined this team from the start. So we have different AI tools right now, and there are a lot of different AI use cases that come up within. So we tackle different things from different angles from a technical perspective. Yes, I'm from the privacy office, and my name is Hayakawa. Actually, my background is legal, and when I joined the privacy office team, which was a newly established team. So I took on new challenges where we start setting things in place, and I would like to spend today's opportunity to talk about what I've been working on so far at Mercari. Yes, my name is Ochiya Yuka. Nice to meet you. So originally, my background is from legal, and when Gen AI came up, I found it very fascinating. I actually spent my sleeping time to really look into this topic, and now I'm in the AI governance team. So I mainly work on creating guidelines, risk reviews, and to support everyone's utilization of AI. Yes, thank you for your self-introduction. So let's jump into the first question. Akamatsu AI security person in charge, can you cover this topic? I briefly talk about the high level, but as you set in place the guardrails, what are the specific things that you work on? What have you been working on so far? Can you give us an insight into that? Yeah, so we started using AI, using agents, different tools came up, and we received a lot of feedback internally that a lot of employees want to try out new tools. But at Mercari, we need to take responsibility. We need to be a responsible company, and as we take on new tools, so we had to set in place guardrails. Even if we have guidelines, we need to check whether it's properly implemented, and to also protect people from mistakenly taking actions that will endanger the company. And for example, we have different tools, and we have been taking on different initiatives. For example, Davin was the first was the agent that we've used, and it created code remotely. I think initially we were really moved by it, but as you look at things from a security perspective, for example, if you give permission to Davin, like for example, it can connect to the cloud, or it can access the internal knowledge base. In other words, authorization, right? Giving authorization to the agent. If you use just as is, it's going to really be risky in terms of authorization. So that's why we decided to sign on an enterprise plan. And as AI security team, as one team, we decided to define the different guidelines and ensure that we manage things on Terraform and ensure that we have a proper access management before we get things started. So not just Devin, but also N8N. It's a workflow tool. I think it's called Diffie N8N. That's something that we use at our company too. So that also you can create workflow in a flexible manner. So that it also brings in certain risks. So we need to have an optimized tool that we are able to monitor things. And also, just now, Jason also mentioned about Claude Code. So at Mercari, we actually use MDM to securely distribute Claude Code. And so basically from Anthropic, they explained that you can set things up this way. And then at Mercari, we took a step further. For non-engineers and both engineers, we decided to set the settings separately. And for example, just now we talked about Devin, right? We talked about N8N as well. I think this applies for those two. So we need to clearly define what security means to us, and that's why we took this approach. So we need to consider different perspectives, authentication, authorization, ensuring that agent doesn't take action outside of what's expected. We also need to think of what are the mechanisms in place to properly monitor the situation. And in the past year, as we utilize AI, we are still in the phase where there's no best practice out in the world right now. And I believe this is not just AI security. There's a lot of things that are uncertain and ambiguous. And right now we are in the midst of figuring things out. What's the best way to handle things? So we take on things really speedily, and at the same time, we also need to think about how to handle things in a secure manner and how we can make that possible from a technical perspective. So in terms of Claude Code, engineers have a more flexible setting. For non-engineers, we give a different setting so that we can say that, okay, for this device, this person has this device, and this person is an engineer. So this setting will be given to this person. So we take on different AI tools, but with that, we also need to have a proper guardrail in place so that things do not go out of control. Yes, Akamas, thank you so much. At Mercari, we have a security team before anything, and we had different initiatives running. But let's say for a company where there's no security team even, what do you think would be your advice to those companies, perhaps? So first of all, if you're going to start from scratch, first of all, there's no best practices in this. right? So you need to really think about what were the past best practices that you have done before. For example, we have Light LLM. We provide the gateway to use LLM, and the concept of gateway is something that have been prominent already. For example, using SaaS to manage data, and also we want to manage permission in a consistent way, in a centralized manner. So we have been doing that in the past years already.
So in the age of AI and agent, we need to apply the same concept. And that is what we have been thinking. And that is something that you have to do in your organization, in my opinion. Thank you very much. So going beyond security, we'd like to move on to different areas. About the establishment of AI governance team, and before that we had AI ethics committee. So there were a lot of meetings as well as teams we had. So now I'd like to pass the mic over to Yuka to tell us more about the activities of the AI governance team. So when you hear about AI governance, the image that pops into your head is that we are the bottleneck or something that blocks, but the Mercury's AI governance is different. Mercury's AI governance, what we do is accelerating everything with AI. So for our team, it's a navigator. When there is a car and there is a road, people on the ground are the drivers, and AI governance is the navigator that navigates you through the route so that you can get to the goal with the fastest route. So if you fall in the pitfalls, of course you will struggle. So if you work with us, you'll be able to get to the goal the fastest. We receive a lot of inquiries about the use of AI, and up until now, we were telling those people to reach out to the security, legal, as well as other different teams. But now people are able to consult with the AI governance, so there's just a one-stop hub. And in the background, we work with the security, privacy related teams to handle those inquiries. So people on the ground, if they have any inquiries, any questions, they can just reach out to us and we can provide them with right answers. And this has been well received by this company, and the person wearing a yellow shirt is the person that is actually handling those inquiries in the background. Our stance is that, of course, in the emergency there is a kill switch that we can turn, but our stance is just yes and how, meaning that we will try to say yes all the time and think about how we can realize that. And the team members of the AI governance team are proactive users of AI. They all love AI. So everyone is working with AI at its core. So people have any rough ideas about use of AI, for example, how they can improve customer experience, they can just talk to the AI risk review agent to clarify what would be an issues. And we also have an AI governance portal, which is based on Notion, where we are consolidating all the guidelines, rules, as well as AI governance related information. So you can just ask questions to the Notion AI so that AI will provide you with right answers, so they don't have to actually read guidelines. All they can do is just ask questions to Notion AI. And recently we released AI guideline revision agent. Because things are moving really faster outside of the organization, we can't keep up with the guideline revision. So for this area, we are using AI agent so that we can make updates to the AI guidelines in a way that aligns with what's going on within and outside the organization in the AI front. And the AI agent era is going to come soon, meaning that AI agents will be able to make decisions, take actions on their own. So we wouldn't be able to handle all the inquiries at its pace. So in order to accelerate the speed of development with AI, what we want to do as AI governance is that our tagline is AI governance at scale, meaning that people on the ground will be able to move things forward with AI agents. They can always ask questions to AI agents whenever they have any questions or inquiries. The second is that humans focus on critical high-risk areas. So that is going to be the main responsibility of humans. And number three is that AI governance itself is going to extend itself with AI. So we'll create more and more agents, and the number of employees within the team is small, but we will be able to do more and more things with the AI agents. So we will expand AI governance and to drive Mercari's explosive growth. And I want you to be part of us and help us realize our mission with the AI speed. All right, I'd like to ask a last question about privacy team. So if you have any advice for the organizations that do not have any AI governance or related teams. Well, creating an agent is quite easy, straightforward. I'm not an engineer, so whatever I have in my head, I just type that in my agent, and AI agent can create that. So first thing is, do not afraid of using an AI agent. Alright, so I want to ask you a question as a person in charge of privacy. How is the privacy team evaluating and discussing AI personal data use? So it's related to what you've been talking about, Jason, but I'm sure your organization might have a privacy team whenever you use a personal information or you review any customer impact. So we work closely with the legal team as a second-line team and review all the inquiries. So there are oftentimes conflicts between people on the ground and us, but we don't want to do that. We want to be part of the growth and part of the engine. So we've been part of the AI task force from the initial phase. At the beginning, CHRO Kimura talked about the importance of HR and the importance of checking any risks that come with the use of AI. So recently, there is a momentum of AI native, but even before that, Mercari was handling a huge amount of customer information, and there are different categories of customer information, personal information, such as customer names, different kinds of confidential data, and whether or not we should use it for evaluation process. So from a legal and a privacy perspective, we've been sharing our insights, our knowledge with the teams within the organization. So right now we're trying to handle all the questions or inquiries we receive, and we are working closely with the security team and a legal team and a governance team. And people now have the understanding that they can just reach out to me wearing a yellow neon color. Recently I dyed my hair to blonde, but anyways, so what we've been trying to do is to become the hub that people are always come to us with any questions they might have in order to prevent any risks such as shadow IT. Thank you. Last but not least, so for the organizations that are planning to implement AI privacy governance team, what's your advice for them? Yeah, first thing you can do is to wear this kind of really colorful clothes. But anyways, what's important is to have a mindset or attitude to always work with people that reach out to you with consultations. Make them realize that governance team or privacy team are really easy to talk to, easy to consult with, so that people can always reach out to you and ask any questions they might have. So it's not just about, first line team, second line team. It's just a difference in roles and responsibilities, but ultimately we are the one team within the one F1 car reaching for the same goal. So it's important to have the same understanding about where we are headed and what is the mission that we need to achieve. So thank you very much for your advice. We only have 3 or 4 minutes left, so I'd like to take questions from the audience. So that is all for the panel discussion, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. My question to you is that I work as an IT consultant and working in different areas to promote the use of generative AI. And large-scale companies, they care really about managing the personal information. A lot of companies have rules of not inputting personal information to AI. So when they try to mask such information, it's a lot of process that take a lot of time. So they actually neglect the process. I want to know what Mercury is doing in order to mask such personal information as well as the confidential information. So how do you mask such information so that generative AI isn't able to utilize such data or information? Yes, I'll first answer the question. If you have something you want to add, please go ahead. But I think it depends on the individual case, because definition of personal information is quite broad, because any piece of information can be categorized as a personal information. It's about what kind of impact each that piece of information can have. So there is no single way of preventing that. So first thing we have to understand is whether those use cases really require the use of AI, whether the traditional methods could work, whether any existing workflow risks change, and whether the use of AI will be able to reduce the risks that already exist. So it depends on each case, and we need to think about what's going to change with the use of AI, what kind of improvement we will be able to make for the operations, whether there will be more risks that coming with that. Yeah, I know that there are those rules that a lot of companies have, but here at Mercari, as a baseline, people are able to use the tools that are approved officially. And I think that trend is going to change in the future. I think eventually we will be required to check whether the use of AI is actually necessary or not in the first place. Sorry if we run out of time, but please come talk to us at the after party. Tonight I'll be here, so if you have any questions or comments, please come talk to us. Thank you very much.